The United Nations says Sudan is now spiralling out of control, and it's warning the conflict, which has now entered its fifth month, could destabilise the whole region. Well, it says the death toll from the fighting between the army and the rapid support forces is now more than 4,000, with millions more forced to flee. Well, many have crossed into neighbouring countries. The deputy head of the governing Sovereign Council says a caretaker government is needed and the war has to end at the negotiating table. Malik Aga made those comments in a televised speech just as the UN was giving a grim picture of the situation across the country. Well, it puts the number who have been forced from their homes in the millions now. Estimating more than 3.4 million have been displaced. Over 1 million of those have fled across the border into neighbouring countries. And with the fighting affecting huge swathes of the country, the UN says time is running out for farmers to plant the crops needed to feed not only Sudan, but other countries as well. Well, many families have been on the move for weeks now with very little food or medicine. Our UN correspondent Frank Luciano has more.
The fighting between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces is threatening to explode into a regional conflict, and it's already spawned ethnically driven fighting in Darfur. Now, civilians caught in the crossfire of the fighting have faced looting and are running out of food, and they lack, in many cases, access to health care. UN humanitarian agencies have struggled to provide aid because of the difficulty of operating in this hostile environment, and even some humanitarian workers have been attacked. Now, according to the UN Office for the High Commissioner for Human Rights, there has been a dramatic increase in sexual violence and overall casualties. Let's hear more from the spokesperson, Elizabeth Throssell.
Now, while it's difficult to establish an exact number of casualties due to the intensity of the fighting and the fact that the remains of many of those killed have not been collected, identified or buried, tentative figures indicate that more than 4,000 people have so far been killed, including hundreds of civilians. The UN Human Rights Office has also received credible reports of incidents of sexual violence, of some 32 incidents of sexual violence against 73 victims as of the 2nd of August. This includes at least 28 incidents of rape. Men in RSF uniforms were implicated in at least 19 incidents as perpetrators, and the actual number of cases is likely much higher.
The Sudanese government declared the UN Special Envoy to Sudan, Volker Perthes, persona non grata about 3 months ago and asked the Secretary General to replace him. That hasn't happened. And last week, he was supposed to brief the Security Council on the conflict in Sudan, and apparently the UN was pressured to withdraw his name from even testifying to the Security Council. The U.S. ambassador confirmed this, and she said it was an outrage that Sudan bullied the UN over who could speak in the council. The UN has several agencies operating in Sudan and is concerned the government could hinder access for the civilians that they are trying to help.